Ambassador Thexnall stared at the burned remains of what had once been the Kepler station, her mandibles clicking nervously as she transmitted her final report to the Galactic Tribunal. Around her, the debris field told a story that few would believe, and fewer still would want to hear. Personal log, Ambassador Thexnall, 3rd cycle, 127th rotation, she began, her voice carrying across the void through quantum resonance. I am documenting the aftermath of what the humans have designated the liberation of Kepler. We should have listened to the elders. The station had been a marvel of Zephyrian engineering, a crystalline structure 3 kilometers in diameter, housing nearly 500,000 beings from across the galaxy. It had served as a research facility, a diplomatic hub, and most importantly, a prison for the galaxy's most dangerous criminals. The consortium had assured everyone that it was impregnable. They had been wrong. The first sign should have been their reaction to the imprisonment of their own kind. Thexnall continued, her compound eyes focusing on a piece of twisted metal that had once been part of the station's outer ring. When we captured those human pirates, the ones who called themselves the Solar Wolves, their species didn't negotiate. They didn't plea. They simply said, "We're coming for them." The Galactic Consortium had laughed. Humanity was barely 2 centuries old as a spacefaring species, still using primitive fusion drives when most civilizations had moved on to quantum displacement engines. Their military consisted of converted mining vessels and retrofitted cargo haulers. What threat could they possibly pose to a facility guarded by the combined fleets of 17 advanced civilizations? Elder Vex Marie had warned them during the tribunal session. The ancient Voidwalker, her species having observed galactic affairs for over 10,000 years, had spoken in her characteristic whisper that somehow carried across entire chambers. "The patterns are familiar," she had said, her ethereal form flickering between dimensions. "We have seen this before, in species that burned bright and died young. But never have we seen it in a species that learned to survive." The other tribunal members had dismissed her concerns. Elder Vex Marie was known for her cryptic warnings and philosophical musings. Besides, humanity had been relatively peaceful since joining the galactic community. Yes, they had some internal conflicts, but what species didn't? Their expansion had been measured, their diplomacy crude but effective. The second sign was their silence. Thexnall recorded, maneuvering her scout ship through the wreckage. For 73 standard days, after we refused their demands for prisoner exchange, they said nothing. No diplomatic protests, no threats, no communication at all. We thought we had cowed them. She paused at a section of the station where the metal had been carved. Not blown apart by explosives, not melted by energy weapons, but carved with precision that spoke of tools the consortium didn't know humans possessed. Elder Kefteran tried to warn us about their history, she continued. He had studied their homeworld extensively, watched their species evolve through their primitive conflicts. He showed us the data, how they had fought each other for millennia, how they had turned their entire planet into a laboratory for warfare. They know only one way to solve problems, he had said. They break things until the problem goes away. But the consortium had looked at humanity's peaceful integration into galactic society, their contributions to art and science, their eagerness to learn from older civilizations. They had chosen to see what they wanted to see. The attack had come without warning. No declaration of war, no mobilization of fleets, no detectable military buildup. One moment, Kepler Station was operating normally. The next, it was under assault by ships that shouldn't have existed. They didn't use ships we recognized, Thexnall spoke into the void. Our sensors detected vessels moving at impossible speeds, using technology that shouldn't have been possible with their level of development. When Admiral Corex 5 demanded to know where they had acquired such advanced systems, the human response was unsettling. she found herself at the station's former command center, now a twisted sculpture of metal and crystal. Here, according to survivor accounts, the human boarding parties had achieved something that had taken the consortium's best engineers months to accomplish. They had cracked the predecessor encryption that protected the prison's most dangerous inmates. "We made them," was all they said when asked about their technology. Made them. As if 23 advanced civilizations hadn't been working together for decades to understand predecessor science, and these newcomers had simply made their own. The truth was more disturbing than the tribunal had wanted to admit. Humanity hadn't been peaceful during their integration into galactic society. They had been learning. Every cultural exchange, every diplomatic mission, every joint scientific endeavor had been an intelligence-gathering operation. They had studied every species, catalogued every weakness, reverse-engineered every technology they encountered. Elder Simthara warned us about their capacity for deception. Thexnell recorded as she approached the station's former detention level. Her species had mastered the art of reading intentions across quantum states. She said the humans' thoughts moved in patterns she had never encountered, simultaneous paths of cooperation and conquest, as if they were perpetually preparing for both friendship and war. The detention level told the story most clearly. The humans hadn't just liberated their own kind. They had released everyone, political prisoners, war criminals, beings so dangerous that some had been imprisoned for millennia. And somehow, they had convinced these diverse, often hostile entities to work together in the escape. "We found propaganda broadcasts transmitted during the assault," she continued. The humans had somehow learned the languages, customs, and grievances of species they'd never encountered. They spoke to each prisoner in terms that resonated with their specific psychology. They had turned our most secure facility into a recruitment center. The final sign should have been impossible to ignore, yet the consortium had managed it anyway. In the aftermath of the Kepler incident, human ships had begun appearing in systems across the galaxy, not as invaders, but as liberators. Wherever there was oppression, wherever there was injustice, wherever there were those who chafed under consortium rule, humans arrived with offers of alliance and aid. Elder Yithnall tried to explain it to us in the emergency session. Thexnell transmitted as she prepared to leave the debris field. She said humans didn't think like other species. They didn't see enemies and allies. They saw problems and solutions. The consortium had become a problem. Within a standard year, 17 systems had declared independence from the consortium, each backed by human technology and strategy. The galaxy's most stable political structure, in 3 millennia, had begun to fragment, not through conquest, but through conversion. The elders were right, Thexnell concluded as her ship broke free of the debris field. Behind her, Kepler Station continued its slow tumble through space, a monument to the consortium's failure to understand what humanity truly was. They warned us that humans were different. They showed us the signs, the deception, the preparation, the way they turned every interaction into intelligence gathering. She paused, looking at the tactical displays showing human ships moving through systems that had been consortium strongholds for centuries. But we chose to look away because we wanted to believe that any species could be civilized, could be controlled, could be made to fit into our vision of galactic order. We forgot that civilization is just a veneer, and underneath, humans remained what they had always been, the apex predators of a world where only the cunning survived. The transmission ended, and Ambassador Thexnell set course for the tribunal homeworld. She would deliver her report, and the elders would nod their ancient heads and speak of patterns and cycles. But it wouldn't matter. The humans had already won. They had won the moment the consortium decided that the warnings were just the paranoid fears of old beings who had seen too much history. They had won when the galaxy's greatest civilizations chose to believe that predators could become pets, that wolves could become sheep, that humanity could ever be anything other than what 4 billion years of evolution had made them. The signs had been clear. They had chosen to look away. And now, as human ships moved like shadows through the galaxy, it was far too late to look back.